Now for something completely different.
Forget everything you've been told by others before. Get ready for the real deal, the full story, real talk about money, markets, life. Now, it's The Real Investment Show, presented by RIA Advisors.
And welcome to Rosso's Garage. I have no idea what all those tools do. We might need the fire extinguisher through the show because it's hot in here. But welcome to Financial Fitness Garage. That could be a really good show for ABC. Oh, wait, they did that already. Some sort of garage show. Everything happens in the garage. You know, during retirement, what I have noticed is a lot of men, they don't have a man cave. They have a man garage. And their wives will not walk in. They don't even want to look at it. So about 3 weeks ago, a client said, my wife took the screwdriver I have hanging up. I have a row of screwdrivers. They're all in a row on the pegboard. And one is missing. And you would have thought that the world was about to come to an end till that screwdriver was back in its rightful place. No, it was in the junk drawer. And that was a problem. That was a problem.
The junk drawer in the kitchen?
In the kitchen was written, and
that's where all screwdrivers go to die.
Well, pretty much when they should be on the pegboard in the garage. So that created a big... He's still not over it. Still not over it. Might be grounds for divorce. So, what also could be grounds for divorce is how you all decide to create a retirement income stream. And the toughest part of retirement income is we try to create hard, fast rules about withdrawals in retirement. And there's enough rules of thumb that are absolutely outdated and still today are employed and discussed in many major brokerage firms because they're still living in the 90s. And in all fairness, Bill Bengen, who created the 4% withdrawal rule, I'm sure all of you have heard that rule of thumb. It was at the time revolutionary because at least it gave you some guidance on what to do. But even he, as an older gentleman now in retirement, looks at these more customizable elements. And I think that's the word we need to remember here. Customizable. Years ago, when you were getting 9, 10% on bonds, it was easy to just say, I'm going to put all my money in fixed income and clip the coupons. That was a term I've heard a lot when I first started in the business. Makes sense, right? I was on a trajectory of rates going lower, so my balances were going, and I was getting this incredibly nice stream of income. But today, the retirement income picture is more a mosaic of how do I bring in the lifeblood of retirement, which is income. And I always say this. Now, growth is important. We understand you might live longer. I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that I do. Some of the things that are out there so you really understand how you're aging, okay? The amazing technology that's out there that can help you understand if you are increasing your longevity. But the point I'm trying to make is what you might find frustrating when creating a retirement income plan is it's more art than science. Even with all the incredible tools, say, at RIA that we use to create guardrails for clients, helping them understand how to realistically spend, and that's the word, realistically. Because most retirees want flexibility. It's because of how people retire today. So, I mean, I always bring up my grandpa. My grandpa retired. He pretty much didn't do much. He retired at 65. He was a janitor his whole life. and sat in the yard and threw rocks at cats. Yeah, damn cat. Never hit him. And I would just sit out there going, and my grandfather was my best friend. I know everybody talks about, oh, you don't hang out with your elders. When I was going through college, I was like 20, 21. I actually would go to my grandpa's house in Brooklyn and hang out. He was actually a pretty cool guy. And I always liked to see how many times he couldn't hit a cat with a rock. So he says, one day I'm going to hit that damn cat. No, you're not, Grandpa. Not going to do it. Today at 65, if someone even retires at 65, my goodness, it is so different. The traveling, the active spending. So David Blanchett, who is a really amazing researcher when it comes to all things retirement, had created something called the Retirement Income Smile. And we use that as an overlay on our withdrawal services at RAA. Here's why. When you first retire, you're pretty active today. You're traveling. You're acting. And if you're younger, say I consider if you're 65, 66 years old, you're actually a young retiree. You're doing a lot of things. You're staying busy. You're traveling. You're going out with friends. You're staying social. And your withdrawal rate, based on the old stale rules, might concern you. 10, 11, 12% withdrawal rates. Front-loaded. Because this is when I should be front-loading it. Younger retiree. I have things I want to do. And most people prefer spending more early in retirement. That's how retirees spend. Everybody is going to be different, but for the most part, retirees don't match this 4% rule guideline anymore. Nor can we say, oh, I'm going to tuck this money into bonds and just clip the coupons. We know we need a total return approach. Trimming capital gains, filling the cash bucket so I could take my withdrawals on an automatic basis. A lot of people will take them on a monthly basis, almost to resemble a paycheck coming in, where the money is just moved into their checking account electronically. So there was a survey done, 2,000 defined contribution plans, participants funded through the Granum Center for Economic Security at the American College for Financial Services. And Michael Finke did this study. He's really great when it comes to retirement income study. He said, I provided participants with a choice of 4 spending options. They choose to spend more early, spend the same dollar amount each year, then maintain a constant amount of after inflation spending, and then increase spending gradually. 38% of participants chose to spend the same dollar amount each year, and the second most popular choice at 28% was spending even more, which is what I see, early in retirement. And since inflation eats away at purchasing power, that means that 2/3 of respondents would prefer to front load retirement spending. And intuitively, you would think that makes sense, right? I'm at the beginning of the retirement income smile, where I'm spending more. Then I am going to look at, so this constant real spending rate, it doesn't work. And if you're using planning software that assumes a 4% withdrawal rate, here's what you're going to do. You are going to create a miserable, miserable retirement. Most people who primarily have stocks and bonds or variable assets, and that's how they're generating income. Yeah, sure, Social Security is their pension most likely, but that's just a percentage. If I have variable assets, most likely I'm underspending because those assets are erratic. I could be down 10%, normal garden variety recession, and it's going to freak me out. And I'm going to spend less, which means I'm going to deprive myself of money early on, have more money when I'm more in this settled or the valley of the smile, When I'm not unhealthy, by the way. So here's what I'm working with right now are clients that have been in retirement distribution for about 15 years or so. They're in the valley of the smile. And what I mean by that is, listen, how many times do we got to travel to Italy? How many times do we have to do this? Been there, done that. They're not unhealthy, by the way. Their priorities have shifted. Now they have grandkids who come over every weekend or every other weekend. Sort of give mom and dad a chance to breathe. They take those kids out for their events. They may set up a special trip for those grandkids, but for the most part, they're not doing stuff a lot on their own. They're not eating dinner out all the time. I have clients now that they would go to all these fancy restaurants all the time. And once they hit like 78, they're like, we still go, but like we go early and we order maybe half of what we used to and bring most of it home. So it's more of a closer to the roots kind of retirement for a good period of time. And guess what? In that period, my spending rate is pretty steady. I'm actually not spending as much, but I'm not unhappy. Like, how much junk do I need? I'm not buying any more stuff. Like, when was the last time Brent bought a shirt? 1972.
Hey, now.
I'm kidding. But you know what I mean, Brent. Like, you're in this, like, why do I need new clothes, new this? Like, once in a while, I guess I got to repay, but you're in this period of, I don't need, more stuff actually gets you stressed.
But you got to keep it snappy, Rich.
You got to go, yeah, I know you got to look snappy. You got to do that.
You're on YouTube.
I know, I'll just wear my new hat. But there is a point where you don't need new furniture. You don't need new stuff. You're actually downsizing. And your experience is a little more local. So I have clients that actually would travel to Europe every year. First active part of retirement. Now they're just traveling around the U.S. They're loving it. Like, they're starting to see all the things they haven't seen in the United States. So their travel has downsized a bit. They're closer to home. They got Texas. If you could spend your lifetime going through the history of Texas. Am I right?
That's right. Texas is a whole other country.
I mean, it is. I mean, you actually think about it, that you could spend your retirement just traveling through all the historical, amazing components of areas of Texas itself. But, they just came back from South Dakota. Mm-hmm. So I'm living through them because they're seeing all the fall colors, and they're killing me.
No, vicarious vacationing is fun.
That's what I do.
And cheap.
I live through them. Yeah. They said, "Look, Rich, I'm in Bend, Oregon. Look at the color of the leaves on that tree." Ah! But they're not doing these extravagant trips anymore. But they're happy as hell. Now, as you get older, it's not even the healthcare costs, because Medicare does a pretty decent job, even if you do it the right way. Long-term care costs, aging in place. I might have a short-term disability, right? I fall, I break something. My expenses at the end of retirement start to complete the smile overall. So when you're working with an advisor, and that advisor brings up the 4% rule, you need to run 4% faster than you would have out the door, because that is not how people spend. Thus, your advisor needs to understand the balance of science, whether it's guardrails, retirement income, the academic part, with you as an individual. Because psychologically, you're not going to like spending money. You spent your whole life. You put that seed in the ground. You got this beautiful apple tree. And now the apples are all ripe, and you're just going to sit and look at them, and you're not going to pick them, and they're going to rot. Or someone else is going to enjoy those apples. You're not. And as an advisor, we have to help you understand it's okay. It's okay. This is the time of your life to harvest. Don't deprive yourself. Especially with the way the market's been over the last few years. So over the last couple of years, we've been front-loading goals. Hey, you need a new car in 2028? No, No, you don't. You need it now. You need to do that renovation in 2029? No. We're going to do it now because we have the money. Or we're going to take that money and we're going to put it aside in a bucket and we know it's there. So people are hitting some of their variable goals sooner because of market performance. So this is an interesting thing. Moshe Malovetsky, he's a really great insurance guy. Health span is as important as longevity. So I use a company called Novos Labs. Novos does a blood test. I do it every year, sometimes every 6 months. Based on your habits, you have your biological age. So yeah, you're 60, you're 60. What is actually your health span age? Like what age are you, how fast are you aging? So according to Novos, I'm aging 8 years less. I'm slowed down. It's called the Dunedin clock. So that's based on habits, and they do blood work to see. What Moshe is bringing up, which is absolutely important, is your biological age could be real different than your health span. It goes the other way too, because on this scale, you can age more rapidly. And somewhere along the line, I always say this, Brent, I might be dead and you'll come visit my grave and look up first and go, oh no, wait, he's not up there. He's down there. And go, my gosh, Rich wanted a nutritionist on file, a coach that actually does these blood diagnostics at the firm. And here it is. Because if we are getting healthier and we're doing certain things and AI is telling us some things, you might have to plan. If you're a much healthier retiree, say you're 65 years old, but your clock is slow. You've done all these amazing things. You work out, you eat healthy, you do all these things, and your blood work is showing the metrics that, you might be 65, but you're like a 57-year-old. I got to plan for that. I got to plan for longevity. Yes, we want a healthy retirement, but my money now has to last as long, or my front-loaded spending is going to be bigger because I'm healthier. I might take bigger trips. I might do things for longer. I might be doing these trips into my 70s where maybe some people are already in the valley of the smile. I need to now take that into account in my planning. One way to do it is, okay, if I'm not going to outlive my money based on my lifestyle, my portfolio benchmark return, or the return that I need to hit my goals, is pretty low, and I can overcome that hurdle with my money managers or myself, great. There are some people, though, who can run out of money. That's where, one, Social Security claiming, smart claiming is going to work, because Social Security is longevity risk insurance. So I may have to claim a little bit different than I was thinking. Maybe I'm not going to do it at full retirement age. I'm going to wait till age 70 to do it. Okay. But is there still a chance? Possibly. Because I might need some form of guaranteed income structure to link in and know that that's a check that I can't outlive. Now, on the other side of that, I could say that if I have this biological clock that is ticking slower, which is great, which means you're doing all the right things. So mine is showing that I'm aging at 0.6 slower. So 1 is the age, I'm at 0.6, right? Your 0.6 to 0.8 is where I sort of stay. There are people there. I don't know if you read Brent, did you read the study about that 40-year-old dude, his 48-year-old dude, like what he does in the morning to decrease his aging clock? Like his whole day is taken up with supplements.
Yeah.
And that's a miserable way to live.
Kitchen cabinet looks like a pharmacy.
Yeah. And the blood tests and the workouts and how do you have time to do anything else? I mean, there's a point where, I might have slowed down my clock, but I'm living miserably here. right? But the science of it is really important to connect to your retirement income spending. And your advisor then has to plan you accordingly. So say I do this. Rich says I should go to Novos Labs, and I don't have no affiliation with Novos except that I've used them for years. And I'm going to take my blood test, and I am aging slower. Oh gosh. Well, some ways I may not have to get an annuity. I may not have to increase my guaranteed income. Because guess what? The upper side of the health smile, I may not need as much. So in other words, what a lot of older Americans worry about is broken bones. Like I've noticed when people fall, Brent could probably attest to this, he knows people. It's that who fall a lot. He's actually like the new Life Alert. I've fallen and I got to call Brent is the new, as opposed to I've fallen and I can't get up. Brent!
Both neighbors on either side.
I just guessed that, and here we go.
Yeah.
That would be a great commercial. Just call Brent.
Need to pick me up? Call Brent.
If you have exercise, like I've noticed, they said my skeletal frame is aging at something like 51 years, like 10 years better, because I work out a lot. Because you worry about you're going to break a bone, you're going to fall, you won't heal well. That's what I see a lot of the genesis of a downhill slope. Would you say that that's once you have older people starting to fall and they have to recover from a hip break or something, it takes a lot out of the...
Recovering from any kind of surgery at a certain age is going to take longer. And yeah, that's always a consideration, especially if you're being faced with the prospect of having to have a surgery.
Here's Ace Frehley. Like, I was a huge Kiss fan as a kid.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane Kiss fan. Like, I didn't like a lot of rock music. I liked a lot of Southern rock, but I loved the licks. I loved their strategy of putting songs together. And I got to see my first concert when I was like 11 years old. I got to see Kiss in concert, and I was freaking out. Ace Frehley used to be on shoes that used to be like a foot tall.
Yeah.
Spinning and walking and all the fireworks. This dude dies, which made me feel really old. The genesis of it was a fall.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Hit his head.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that just because you work out, you're not going to fall and hit your head. What I'm saying is falls are definitely... Here's a guy that you would think is pretty stable on his feet, walking on these shoes all his life, right? He probably was overconfident knowing that, and probably did a misstep or however it did. So that was sad to find out that Ace Frehley, man, some of his songs, he was really great.
You know, if he'd been wearing those shoes, he probably wouldn't have fallen.
Because he wouldn't have needed to get up on a ladder.
That's
he just
right.
would have had the shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Herman Munsters. So, your health and your wealth get absolutely connected, especially in the retirement income spending strategy. And again, there's a little bit of art in there, right? We come up with middle lane guardrails for clients. This is how much you can spend. If your portfolio does this, you go to the right lane, you might have to cut it back, or left lane if you have years like we've had in the last few, where if you want to give yourself a raise, you certainly can. So you have to work with an advisor that looks at these things. And another thing interesting in this study, older cyclists, there are so many that they go hiking, skiing, cycling year-round to keep themselves healthy. So when you look at somebody's lifestyle, you get to understand what their retirement income plan probably should look like. And that's not science. That's an art that your advisor picks up along the way, working with other advisors and training to help you understand that the 4% rule at one time had a use, but it doesn't anymore. What's your biggest enemy? So you got to think about this too. Inflation, right? We have to understand that you have to consider the fact that each goal you have has a separate rate of inflation. And if I'm unhealthy or immobile, I'm sedentary, I'm going to have probably higher healthcare costs. I'm going to have a smile like the Joker, the one side on the healthcare. My healthcare spending, because if I need more healthcare services, I might have withdrawal rates for the bad thing. In other words, the quality of your retirement. And I get to see, I'm so thankful to get to see so many quality retirements that I have to live through these clients. Like, this is amazing. All the things you're doing at 72 years old. It's because the mindset is different. The mindset is not of an older person. They're open to new things. They do all this. So that affects, you think, that sounds funny. Like, what does that have to do, Rich, with anything in finance? It sounds ridiculous. No, it's connected. It's all connected to the retirement spending behavior, the longevity of the portfolio, what you need to do to shore up that longevity of that portfolio, that it lasts as long as one or the other. Both parties, husband and wife. So there are just so many things that go or come into the plan to create the retirement income. Ken Fisher, for example, builds this huge business, hates annuities. Because if you're Ken Fisher with $1 bajillion, you don't need an annuity. You're not going to outlive your money. Warren Buffett doesn't need an annuity. Shocker. Right? You have to be open based on your lifestyle, and your advisor does. They can't say it's all this or it's all that. Like I said, it's a mosaic of creating that cash flow. All you care about is every month, Rich, there's money in my account. How does that go? So to me, we are retirement income specialists because I find that area absolutely fascinating. Everything that layers of qualitative, psychological, financial that go into this number are absolutely astounding and probably freak out a lot of financial advisors where they want to hide under the bed. Because part of our job is so much more emotional than it is with numbers. So we talk about it. When we talk about it, and you've heard this ad nauseum, but for people who haven't heard it before, there's a show that was out there called Tool Time. Tool Time. And Tim Allen had this young family. And guess who he's always talking to when he's out in the yard? The sage neighbor, Wilson. I think his name was Wilson. I can't remember. I think his whole name was like Willie.
It's Wilson W. Wilson.
Wilson W. Wilson. And the picket fence. That's what I need Brent to do. We needed a picket fence back here, Brent said, because I have the Wilson hat in the office. Wilson, that fence represents so much. I'm sure for the show it was a comedic thing, right? Like Wilson was this mysterious character that he was like Yoda. Like he knew everything. Like Tim Allen would go over to him exasperated. Oh my God, what do I do? Well, Tim, like calm. Yeah. Wilson's is you. When you're ready to retire and spend, you have to cross over that fence. That's a lot more difficult emotionally than you think. That ability to say, gosh, wait a minute, I was just a dad with 3 young kids and they're all grown up and gone. And my value is to keep saving money. I don't want to be Wilson, but I have to be some version of Wilson. And that is a psychological leap over the fence that has nothing to do with money. That we call it crossover risk, the black hole of first retirement. Some people ease into it real easy and some don't. But people who have just stocks and bonds in their portfolio, when we run these guardrails, if we tell them, you can take this amount out per month, and they go, and then I get some smart engineers that come back and go, Rich, this is irresponsible. This is solely irresponsible. What? What's irresponsible? This is a 13% withdrawal rate for 5 years. Yeah. Yeah. But what the 4% rule? You're such a violator of that 4% rule. I don't know what else to say. I'm astounded. Yeah, because that's not how you spend in real life. You're going to have spending more up front. Then I said, did you look at the withdrawal rate as you move forward in your cash flows? Did you look and see what your withdrawal rate is then based on the size of your portfolio possibly? Oh, it's like 2.5. Yeah. I'm front loading you. Then we're going to ease out and then notice toward the last 5 years of where you think you're going to be as far as longevity. Oh, my spending is back up. Yeah. That's how people spend, generally speaking. Yeah, I mean, listen, there are differences. But for the most part, that is really a more realistic mode of behavior. So then what we also do is then rerun that retirement income plan every 3 years. Do we have to reset the guardrails? Unlike in Houston, where they don't fix the guardrails and they fall apart, we go in there and we have to galvanize those guardrails. Oh, you could take $2,000 a month when we first started this. It's 3 years later. Your middle lane guardrail is now $2,200. I don't think I'm going to spend that, Rich, but thanks. Okay, I'm just giving you the latitude, man. You have something special. You want to take grandchild out for dinner. You want to do something. You want to take you have bandwidth. So that brings up the fact that these plans are always made to be fluid and ever-changing. Your financial plan, whether it's the first part of the accumulation plan that we create and your advisor would create, and then the plan that couples to it or the decumulation plan, they are meant to be living, breathing, changing. Not up on a shelf that you never see them again. So those are the kinds of ways you look to build retirement income plan. And listen, if you're 35 years old, you don't care about this. Retirement. But you can still help somebody retire who is retirement. Put them ahead, right? Listen, visualization is very, very strong. It works. Visualize in the place that you want to be, and you will start acting like you're there. Merrill Lynch did something genius years ago. They would take a 25-year-old and they had aging software, and they would put that your face in there and show you what you're going to look like at 65. And your brain at 25 looks at that picture and goes, oh, it's real. And you can put somebody in that 65-year-old mindset at 30. Not for long, but for a period where they can understand at least that we're going to craft out the path to retirement income for you. That's how you invest. How much you put in Roth versus pre-tax versus brokerage versus permanent life insurance versus when you retire. I've got all these different avenues to craft my own tax-efficient retirement income that also connects to the guardrails. Because if I'm paying less in taxes, which is incorporated, don't you think my guardrails would be more robust? Absolutely. These are all the things that go into the decisions that we make, your advisor probably makes. You might be making them if you're doing it on your own. Although most people, when they run their own retirement income plan, they are using a very linear approach to it. And that's not the right way to do it. So most of the time you will need a fiduciary to help you run that decumulation plan, to help you make good decisions. So again, as we wrap this up, retirement income is the fun part of the job for me because it does have this element of art to it that, yeah, The shades are sort of similar across people, but the variations in the lines are so different. And that keeps, believe me, keeps your advisor on their toes. So again, if you want to check it out, it's Novos, N-O-V-O-S, Labs. Check out what they have. Some people might think that the test is a little too pricey, but I will tell you, there's going to be more with AI and technology helping you to be proactive about your health. Don't ignore the fact that if you are using these tools and you are getting healthier, that you have to relook at your portfolio and how much you spend, how much you save, and what your retirement income picture looks like. And I think that's all we got from the garage today. Now, we appreciate you being here. If you have any questions, obviously go to Real Investment Advice, drop a question. Hey, you have experience living in retirement and creating that paycheck? Let me know. I want to hear about it because I want to use it. If there's something that's working for you, by all means, share it. We'd love to share it with everybody else. Thanks again, everyone. Thanks for tuning into Financial Fitness Podcast. We appreciate it. Take care.